to be able to share in this worship service. The gospel reading I found to be not only rich in many ways in content, but also very difficult in content, which means that it's a very good gospel reading to begin to talk about today. And in it, we have, obviously the story of the rich man and Lazarus. And of course, it speaks to the axioms, the one that we found in First Timothy, which is that money is the root of all evil, right? That's present, and that is clear in the gospel reading as well. And then also something that is current from our society, which is whenever we're talking about, something where we suspect someone's motives, who is a public figure or whatever, we often use the phrase, follow the money, as that will show us what's really going on. Jesus was always clear in his teachings that the rich in general were not usually in line with the premise of the Jesus movement, because in that time, to be rich indicated an imbalance in the system, meaning that the rich had too much and needed to give to the poor. So if we look at the parable, it certainly seems to fit with that. The rich man, we have Lazarus. The rich man is rich, Lazarus is poor. The rich man has fine clothes, even purple, and Lazarus is dressed in rags, and the dogs lick his sores. We have the rich man as bad and Lazarus as good. The rich man goes to hell, Lazarus goes to heaven. And so the message that we're given at the end of the parable, it seems like Jesus is saying, well, not only is the rich man beyond repentance, but basically so are his brothers, which is not a very good message. If we want to think about it, it doesn't sound like Jesus. If I were to come in the door of this church for the first time, or returning after a very long time, and this was the only gospel reading that I heard, I might be rethinking my visit, because it's such a difficult one to read. But I think that we need to think about what parables are about, which is parables are about what is not evident. Parables are about making us think and making us move beyond our original assumptions. Parables are about challenging us to wonder what this is really, really all about. And I think that when we read this, we have to consider what is not in the story, which is what I believe Jesus is inviting his hearers and what we're invited to do. What is not evident? Because Jesus lives and preaches repentance, forgiveness, and mercy. And that is not in this story. As church, we need to be really thinking about what it means to be sitting in the space of what is not evident. The world we're living in is so polarized. The rhetoric, the way that people speak is so polarized. Everything is in terms of broad brushstrokes. This person is bad, this person is good, this person is a villain, this person is a hero. So all the dichotomies that we see evident in the gospel reading in that parable are what we see actually in our society. But it doesn't make it okay for us not to look deeper. And as Christian folk, we need to look deeper beyond the polarized rhetoric. It was really interesting yesterday. I was leading the deacons retreat. And when the deacons pulled up, one came in the door and she was rather put out. And she said, there's this very expensive car sitting out there. And the person has taken up 2 parking spots, she said, which means that I had to park down the street and make my way here because this person took more than his share. And she was very upset about that, and quickly all the other deacons got together and said, yes, that should not have happened. Who is this person who has this car that is taking up 2 spaces? They must be a very entitled person. And then we stopped and thought. And one deacon said, but what if the person who parked their car there had to do it very quickly because he had an emergency? Or what if he didn't even know that he parked his car in that way? Now, Jesus would have been standing in that kitchen, probably teaching us to reconsider our harsh judgment. So Jesus is asking us to consider what it means to be in the place of mercy and grace, what it means to be between the 2 polarized viewpoints. Because our calling as Christian people is not to render evil for evil. It's to walk with Jesus, as hard as it is sometimes, in the place where redemption and forgiveness and mercy abound. And that is a place of deep meaning for us as Christians. That is the place that's absent from the parable of today, the rich man and Lazarus, but therefore it is very present in our thoughts. You know, people in this world are seeking that place. In the midst of this polarized rhetoric, people are hungry for that place of meaning. They're hungry for Jesus's real message. People wander this earth being busy, being afraid, being isolated, but they want to be in the place of being beloved, in a place that's rich with God's love, and that is poor in being judgmental. We also seek that place. Every single one of us that is on this screen today, we seek that place. And it is our task, because we are followers of Jesus, to go deeper, to find the meaning that is there. And it's only by doing this work ourselves, each one of us, that we are doing the work of the church. So your work, even from your homes, even from your screens, is to walk the way of love and to bring those around you to consider a deeper meaning. When the rhetoric starts to get polarized, to bring it back into the place, as the deacon did in the kitchen, of, but what if? To suspend judgment and allow for something different to take its place. We're going to renew our baptismal covenant. And our baptismal covenant is specifically about living lives that are deep in meaning. Our baptismal covenant reminds us to respect the dignity of every human being and give everybody a chance. So we thank God for showing us a created world, not as we immediately perceive it, but as it truly exists in that in-between place, in that place of repentance and forgiveness and mercy, and ultimately that place of love. So let us now go to the renewal of our baptism.